All right, so finally, this is a podcast that is the first one between us, and something that I have been personally looking forward to a lot, and I know we have spoken about this in the past. It's a father and son conversation, so I can imagine how exciting it would be for you, and it is exciting for me as well. And so today, Amra, what we're going to do is we're going to talk about 3 or 4 areas which I thought we should touch upon, and maybe there are areas that we will get into more detail in subsequent podcasts or other conversations. So, of course, I have, and so has Sunny, seen you as we grew up from a parent perspective. So I think the first topic or the first area that I would like to have a conversation with you is on your childhood, your parents, and your education. So if you go back to your younger days, you and Jethu growing up together, we've heard lots of stories about both Dadu and Thamma. Let's go back there and let's talk about how it was for you to grow up as a child in a house where there was a poet on one side, which is Dadu, and your mother, who we have heard was one of your biggest inspiration in your life. So what were those days like, and what was your relationship at home?
Good, thank you, Rahul.
Yeah.
I should call you Rahul.
Anything, it doesn't matter. We are having a free-format discussion, so there is no. This is personal, so.
Thank you. I think it's a good opportunity. I wish my parents were alive today to listen to this. But nevertheless, it's basically 2 generations talking, because I will also assume that my parents are around.
Yeah.
And my father and my mother, they were completely different individuals, different kind. My father was brought up in his Mamad Bari, which is maternal uncle's house, because he lost both his parents, father and mother, at a very early age. So his Mama Barite Manush hoyeche arki, boro hoyeche. So they are all living in Allahabad. So my father was brought to Mama's house and they started living there. And all the cousins which was there, they were like their own brothers and sisters.
Yeah.
So that is how he grew up. But psychologically speaking, there was always some kind of an hesitation in him that they are not my parents, but they are my uncles.
Okay.
So the difference between a child coming up in a parent's house and a child coming up in an uncle's house is visible.
Yeah.
And it's quite visible when I saw my dad in the later stages of my life. While he was there, we didn't know. What are the differences? One of the major differences is the insecurity. I mean, there's uncertainty and insecurity which creeps in to an insecure child. He's always wondering whether I'll get the same deal.
Yeah, you don't kind of feel that you belong there, 100%.
I'll get the same deal. Like, for example, I'll give a very stupid and small example. With no hard feelings, my mama, there is a count to go out somewhere. They will say 1, 2, 3, 4 and Botu. Botu is my father's name.
Yeah.
This and Botu made a lot of difference about why can't you say 5? So
he didn't feel included.
He didn't feel included. So those are small things but important things which penetrates in childhood and it stays, it doesn't go away. So my father was brought up like that. But my father's maternal uncle, his mama, and my mom was exceedingly nice lady, and they were like, he looked up to them as parents. They were very kind-hearted and very loving, very caring. Only thing is that Dadu was a little strict, disciplinarian, but my Thakuma,
your mom was.
He was totally motherly. I mean, so he was.
Used to enjoy life. From what I've heard, Thamma used to enjoy life.
No, this is Thamma's. Amma Shashuri.
Okay.
talking
Even she
about-
was like that.
But she was very quiet.
Okay.
She ran a very big family.
Okay.
So, yeah. So that is how it was.
But going through that scenario, like what you mentioned right now, of insecurities, not feeling included, somewhere down the line, both for the Dadu and then later for both you and Jetu, it must have had an impact in terms of wanting to build your own identity, wanting to do something which is hatke.
Yeah, I'll come to that because it had a serious impact.
Okay.
And so that's how the
family ecosystem,
worked. And of course, I was not alive, so I didn't know about it. I heard it from my parents. But fact remains that it was like that. Then fast forward, then we came to my family or my father's family. And my father and mother, the difference was my mother belonged to an upper middle class house, whereas my father belonged to a very upper middle class house, but he never looked at him that way.
Okay.
He was a communist, my father. So, he always looked at himself as a communist. And he tried to build his life as a communist. Whereas my mother was quite fashionable, and she was very upwardly, and she was very modern in those days. In fact, just to give you an example, my mother was the first woman graduate in her family.
Oh, wow.
Those days,
And you're talking about early 30s, 40s.
Before that.
Before that, yeah, because you were born in 50s. So before that,
I'm talking about 1920s.
So that's very progressive from that time.
Yeah, that time on was my mother was the only graduate in the family, girls, and she was very proud for being that. And my father was an MA in economics. So studies-wise, education-wise, they had done a pretty good job, thanks to their mama and mamima. Because normally it happens as if you're brought up in a mama body, then these things don't come up. But he did his masters in Allahabad University. Then he got out and he started doing his work, job. The first job he got was CSIR, which was Council of Scientific and Industrial Research.
Okay.
That was the national laboratories all over where we used to go. And my father took up administration as his area. And he became joint secretary from those days up ladder.
Where was this location?
Delhi.
Delhi. Acha, you were Delhi posted?
They were all Delhi.
Oh, wow. Okay.
I was born in Delhi.
Oh, yeah.
So
Now I connect the dots. In Delhi,
yeah.
But I think he traveled a lot, no? Because he was posted in different locations.
So, it was just... So that was the absolute childhood situation for me. But then
I think your mom became a very important influence as you were becoming an adult.
See, my father was too mentally involved in building his family because he was quite conscious of the fact that that family where he's brought up is not his own. And my mother came from a little rich family, so he was very conscious about that. His mind was mostly engaged in that. So he was not a free guy, and he used to work very hard, my father. But my mother was little bindas, and she was coming from a good family, but she was the eldest of the family. So she was very strict. Eldest, this is a thing I've seen those days. Eldest one in the family is very strict.
Okay.
Because they're the first child.
Yeah, responsible.
Yeah. And that's what they become finally. So that's the structure of the family. And then
your mom essentially, because she was the way she was in terms of being a little more bindas, fashionable, I think when you and Jetu were growing up, I don't know about Jetu as much, maybe you can talk about that, but I think I definitely have seen a side of her influencing you in the way you have lived your life, because from what I remember, you also enjoyed fashion a lot. You also enjoyed...
my mother was a fashionable lady, no doubt about it. Those
and
days,
also progressive.
Those days. And so she used to...
And also very value driven. I remember the example you had spoken about smoking. होना चाहिए.
I'll come to that. So I think the first example I'm going to give about my mother, there's so many examples about my mother, was Charmy's cream.
Okay.
You know, there's cold cream Charmy's. That was the most expensive cream. And my mother used to put Charmy's on her foot. Her foot, normally you don't put the most expensive stuff. So she used to put entire feet, both the feet in the night before she slept, full of Charmy's cream. And people would say, wow, she's putting Charmy's in her feet. You know. That tells you the personality. So that's how, that's what we saw Madhuri
Growing up.
growing up. So that was very
So
nice.
if not you, definitely I've taken on it a little bit because I'm also quite fashionable, and as you know me, and also picky about all the products I use.
No,
and
but that's
quality.
why I like it, because I have not been able to. But on the other hand, just to take a detour, my brother, who was 6.5 years older than me,
older than you, yeah.
much older than me, he was like my father. Background.
You looked
guy.
up to him. He was
Looked up to him, and he was
an
he used to go-
academic.
He used to go to school and buy what is it called?
Chocolate.
Lollipop. And one lollipop he used to bring for me every day, saving his
pocket money or whatever.
money, and then he used to bring from Bhai, brother to bring.
Fantastic.
He was very kind-hearted.
Wonderful.
Very kind-hearted, very serious, and I was little happy-go-lucky, little relaxed, and that's the
relationship you both shared.
We both shared.
Because of the age difference, of course.
And
as well.
so the influence naturally you get is of your mother, because father hardly used to talk. In those days there was huge difference between the father and the mother. Parents.
Or Badite Dhamma was more there, I think.
Yeah, and so it was mother. Mother means I used to see those things, and those got reflected in what I did. So that's how the mother's influence came in. Our family have a hell of a lot. And one thing I learned from my mother, I think this is the right forum to say that you always seek the best. Why would you seek anything which is little less than the best? When there is a thing called best available, always go for the best.
In anything you do in life.
Anything you do in life. And that has nothing got to do with money, because you're not paying. You don't have to spend money. But anything you do, that shows the way she used to think. And she'll keep servants in her house. She will, those
even
kind of.
putting charmies on her foot. That resonates with that. It resonates with that.
Correct. It resonates with that. And then she was like that. But she was not very hardworking. Not very hardworking means she was ill. She was her nerve.
She has
had
neuro.
patient. I mean, I got it from her. So I think she was a neuro patient. So I guess, so she was little vulnerable on those.
But from what we have heard growing up is also that, but she was also very value driven. We just cigarette example to bolna mage. I think that she was very kind hearted. She was a very giving person. You have narrated
she was very giving. I learned philanthropy from
her. So let's talk about that, because I think I remember you narrating. She would see somebody passing by, or
though it was much later, but I saw that in her, and so I still remember the date. She was sitting next to the she was sitting next to the window in Hyderabad, and there was a old beggar lady. She was begging, and on this roadside, and my mother with tears in her eyes. Just seeing her from a distance, she had tears in her eyes.
Very compassionate.
Very, very compassionate. And she used to say that, look at her, Bikram, come here. Arjun, come here. Look at that old lady, and she's suffering. She's crying. Why don't you go down and give something to her? She was like that. And for everything, she was very compassionate.
Very compassionate.
Very compassionate.
And I think part of your nature of giving or giving back is heavily influenced by her, I think, is what I've seen.
These kind of things influenced me. And then, see, my mother is giving, generally giving.
Giving as a person.
I remember, fast forward, my father's Sadhu ceremony. My mother, your mother, was, they had to give an ornament, gold. He didn't have gold while sitting there. She was wearing a gold necklace. She just opened it and gave it. Because I'll go to the Purohit house. She didn't even think twice. Somebody else would see it go.
Correct.
But she didn't bother. That was required, the need of the hour, she'll give. She's by nature like that.
Excellent. So we will, because we have 4 or 5 areas to cover, so let's go to your college days, or early college days. And let's talk about when you got selected into IIT. Your parents found out about it. First of all, what was the reaction? I think, from what I remember, they had gone to leave you at the station or something like that.
Yeah.
So let's talk about that instance, because that's a major milestone in your life.
Yeah. So I think coming to Kharagpur, IIT, again, it follows the same logic of Ma was saying, why will you not choose the second best when there's the best available?
Yeah.
So
she was consistent. She went through,
She was totally consistent. She said, if you have to study anywhere, if you fail in IIT, you can't get into IIT, then you go anywhere else. But you must try IIT. But I tried, I got it. And that's how I came in. And that's how the whole thing changed. And my life has changed because of
that, yeah, sure.
Because of that. So I think my mother was always looking for the best in everything in life they did.
I remember you talking, I think when you did your second book, I Did It My Way, maybe even in the first book, you have spoken how there's a quote that you keep referring to from your mother, that if the world consists of 100 people, and there should be 99.
In fact, that I thought this morning also. When Romit was doing his Griha Pravesh, I mean, exactly that's what we did, and exactly that's what in our house custom was followed. Generations would go on. So, and that was also part of our learning. That you have to do it well.
You have to do it properly. Excellent.
So I think.
So then you got into IIT, and
after IIT was a song. IIT, getting in and getting out was only which I recall.
In between
was all fun, total fun. I mean, it was. We came there, went there to study. That was, you have to remind us that you have to pass your exams. But everybody used to pass. There was no problem.
I'm sure. Essentially, the quality of people getting into IIT is at a particular level.
I'll tell you the quality of people. Somebody will listen and know that 95% of the class had an average of 95% aggregate. And only 10% of them got into IIT.
Acha. Wow. So 10% of people having 95%.
So just think of the kind of people whom I get.
It's a different level.
Totally different level. And remember, they don't see your marks and take you. Intelligence. I mean, they will ask you some funny things.
Trick questions. I'm pretty sure.
But it's just that you have to be natural. You have to be relaxed.
Correct.
So this is an example of IIT.
So then IIT thike tumra bediye, like what was your first this thing when you went through IIT? You met a lot of friends. I've met some of your IIT friends, of course, and that is the first time you're out of home, staying in a college. I think 4 years or
5 years.
5 years.
In our time it was 5 years.
And so you must have made friends, and a lot of them
are still there.
Some of your seniors are in our governing council, Arjun Uncle and others, IIT graduates as well.
Arjun Uncle, Tridib Uncle.
Tridib, many of them, I think. And Calcutta has lots of IIT, KGP
Now in Globsyn, we had Dr. Tridib Majumdar, Arjun Malhotra. These two are in governing council.
Governing council,
Even
Shandipan sir.
I was just going to say, Shandipan is IIT, but he was senior.
Okay, senior, But IIT Kharagpur anyway.
IIT Kharagpur,
Excellent. So, Huntike, once you came out of IIT Kharagpur, what was your first job? And how did you get it?
I just got into, I knew some people in Faridabad, I think, somewhere in UP. Place. And they were doing some statistical work. Analysis.
Numbers.
Numbers. And I got a I got a labeling that I'm good in maths.
Acha.
Somehow. IIT Chile and good in maths. So obviously they would two get together and then. So this was my father's friend who actually said that Amader the statistician doctor. It was not connected with my background, but they had a requirement of a statistician. So got into that analysis work for a short while, 6 months, 4 months, 3 months, 4 months. And then I got out and got into Indian Oxygen. That was my first.
That was your first. But you were not married by then, no?
No.
You were a bachelor, but you got married when you were in Indian Oxygen, right? Okay.
In Indian Oxygen.
Vizag.
Indian Oxygen, I remember to have said in my farewell speech that I came to Vizag with 2 legs. I'm going back with 8 legs.
Because both me and Romit were born there and Ma was there.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's a true statement. You went back with 8, came with 2.
He came with 2.
True.
So I told everybody had a laugh, big laugh those days.
But Vizag, you koto bachor chile?
4.5 years.
Oh, that's a long time in Vizag.
Yeah.
That's a very long
Some
period.
of my best evenings are spent in Vizag. Some best days, in fact.
Yeah.
Vizag is one place where you have sea and hills together.
I remember, what is that place called? Pink Elephant. When you
I
had
will
that.
try and give them the photographs. Or Shabir will give. He has a lot of photographs of Pink Elephant and others, which I took in my book. So when I wrote I Did It My Way, that time a lot of photographs came out. And we made a collation of this. And this is the right place because you can take
You can
snapshot.
show them. Yeah, absolutely.
And so one strong influence was Pink Elephant.
And I think another big influence which is also there in my life, which I often talk about, is how I got influenced by my first boss, Claudia, in Deloitte. And I think your first boss, Balagopal, played a huge... So that's one thing that we both have in common, that our first bosses in our life, right out of college, in my case undergrad, and in your case IIT, played a major role in your life.
Yeah.
Particularly when we were born and in and around that time.
Yeah, you were born, the first thing was the congenital problem we faced. That was the first day.
So you went and spoke to him about it?
Who?
Balagopal?
He knew.
He knew, correct. But that came about, my congenital thing came about, I think a few months later.
When you were 4 months old.
4 months old, na? But then my surgery happened when I was 4 years old.
4 years old.
So we waited a lot.
You can't do surgery at that
4
age.
months. Those days, nowadays they do. But I think those days it was not allowed because they didn't have the technology perhaps and all of that.
That was a big risk I took.
So when I had my surgery, you were still posted in Vizag? Or did you leave? Because that was in Vellore, CMC. But তখন কি তোমরা ভাইজাকে থাকতে না তোমরা দিল্লি চলে গেছিলে by that period of time, because you're talking 1984.
No, 84 I left Vizag.
Because you were probably Delhi. Because Arjun Malhotra and others, if you told me about what is that, HCL maybe, because Shiv Nader, he sort of helped you out that period of time.
Yeah.
So let's talk about that. So obviously for a parent, it's a big thing, no? Like to find you are twins, both me and Romit, coming to life, parents for the first time.
So I'll tell you how it first happened. The story
Let's talk about that. How did you find out?
How did I find out?
Let's find out how he found out.
About congenital. So I was, still remember, you had fever, high fever.
Okay.
103, 104 fever, and you were 4 or 5 months old. So I took you on my lap, wrapped you. You're a small baby. You were a small baby.
Yeah.
So I took you on my lap, and there was this doctor, Sarveshwara Nanda, or something like that. Sarveshwar Rao, Andhra. No? We're very close, walking distance from our house. His fees was 5 rupees, and he went there. I went there alone. Ma didn't go, or couldn't go. So went there, and I put you down there, the bed. Then he did a stethoscope survey, and he kept on doing stethoscope survey. He's not finishing. So I got, what happened? So he said, Mr. Dasgupta, there is a problem. I said, what happened? Well, your son has a murmur in the heart. There are two situations possible. One is it might go away on its own. If the small marble inside, so we can't see, so it will go away. But if it doesn't go away till he's 6 months old, then you might have to do a surgery. And this is open heart surgery. I didn't know what open heart surgery was.
Yeah.
And I said, okay. So I just took it. I was almost in my tears. I just took it, hold it.
And you went back home, huh?
I went back home. So I told Ma. Ma was very strong. So Ma said, "ठीक है, whatever it is, you have to deal with it." So came back. So that's how we found out.
Acha.
And then we did. He did again. Stethoscope diye khullo.
You went back again, and that happened a few times. So, and then it was confirmed that I was a CHD child.
So what are my options? That I leave it as it is. I asked the doctor the same question. What happens if I don't do the surgery? Leave it as it is. Do the surgery then, while you are at that age, or do the surgery when you are 4-5 years old.
Okay.
Leave it like that. Doctor said that he's going to curse you all his life, your life.
Yeah.
If he gets up and he is aware, he will be aware, because for everything he will get disqualified. Small tests he will get disqualified, and he will blame you, because he will say, "Dad, you knew I had this. Why did you take care?
Why did you not do anything about it? Huh?
Why didn't you do anything about it?" So I said, "A question doesn't arise. I will definitely do that. That is the option." Okay, but that's a very major surgery. It's an open heart surgery. So those days, 1984, 83, 84, open heart surgery was not.
And not as common and popular.
Not at all common.
Yeah.
So we did that. Then we went through that. Then there was this church inside the.
So then you picked CMC Vellore.
We picked CMC. I started writing. I was a prolific
You were writing
writer.
to
all the doctors. Right? Then Dr. Sukumar responded. Dr. Stanley John responded.
Sukumar to Delhi te chilo na? Mara gacha, but he was Delhi based from what I know. He was quite a famous doctor.
Very famous.
Even during, I think, COVID times, he was very, very popular on screen.
He was the best.
One of the best.
Cardios India had.
India.
So I got lucky. I mean, Sukumar saw.
And then finally CMC Vellore.
No, this is CMC Vellore.
Acha.
Stanley John was surgeon.
Sukumar was the cardiologist.
Sukumar was a cardiologist.
Okay.
So, and Stanley John had a different status in the hospitals.
White.
White. Everything white. So, and he used to go. This thing I think interesting for readers, viewers to know that. So we are white shirt, white pant. He used to work till about 2 o'clock in the night. And then he will play tennis.
At night?
From 2 to 4. Tennis he'll play, and then he'll go straight to the ground.
But so once again, to home and rest and then come back?
No, straight to the operation theatre.
But when was he sleeping then?
He was not sleeping.
Okay.
He never talked. I know, he slept for 2 hours.
He didn't sleep much, I remember.
2 hours. And when you got operated, he had done 4,995
such operations.
Congenital operations.
Similar.
Only kids.
That time the adult was not even there. I mean, it was all pediatric.
Now you hear these kids, they are doing. Now you can understand when I took you, and when you hear these people, Swamiya and all that talking, how I can relate. My heart beats, you know.
Particularly on the parent side. For both you and Ma as well. As a child, I didn't know better.
You will not know. But for us, all the parents were there. And some good incidents happened that time. One was, they had told that it will take 7 days for your surgery.
There was a long waiting period. I remember. Period.
So your mother was very aggressive. She went to
Stanley John for the date.
You have to give me a date. You tell me 10 days, 7 days, 8 days, you have to give me a date. So, Sally Jan didn't know anything what to do. So then finally we got a date, but that date was 23rd April.
Okay.
He got operated on 13th.
14th.
14th April.
23rd February. I got operated 14th February.
23rd February. 14th February. On 13th February.
One day before.
Suddenly the K2, I still remember, K2 ward was your ward. The doctors came running. Where is Mr. Dasgupta? Where is Rahul's dad? So I said, well, sir, one patient has fallen sick. So we can't take her. So we'd like to send your son. He's quite fit. He can get into the surgery. Suddenly, if somebody tells you like that, and I was planning next week, 8-10 days, that tomorrow morning. So I said, let me ask. Again, your mother was very, very strong. So she said, sooner or later we have to do it.
So might as well do it.
Might as well. So I said, okay, let us do it. Then started the rigmarole. I called people, my family members and others who had gone. Said, look, from today onwards, I am the boss. Nobody is going to take any decision. Nobody is going to talk anything. So I told one guy to get some khalna, toys, one guy to do this, all distributed the work and given the job to do, and they did.
And I think it was a very lengthy surgery from what I
5 hours.
5 hours. Okay, wow, that's a long time. So the phase during which I went through this whole CHD experience of surgery, as we were talking about, coming out of the hospital, getting that date being moved forward, and all of a sudden you found out one day before I had to go through the surgery, and it was a 5 hour plus surgery long. Those days this was not very common. As a parent, on one side you were clear about what you wanted to do, on the other side it must have been exceedingly emotional, also nerve-wracking, because the certainty was not there about what is going to happen to somebody who goes through that procedure. So for parents who have children who are born with such a condition, what's the message you have for them as a parent? Because I think a lot of them, you have experienced it. They are probably starting to experience, some of them, many of them in India nowadays. So what would you like to tell the parent looking back of what you and Ma did right, or perhaps could have done more? What's your message to them?
Good question. In fact, many of the things we did happened to us naturally. It was not in a very planned manner. For example, as I was normally doing and Ma was normally doing, she was looking after the home front. And I was the person looking after the outside world.
The work and the profession.
The work and here also, hospital and others. Dr. Sukumar, Dr. Stanley John. It was mine. Ma didn't even know how many mails. I just showed the mails to her. So, and we continued in that way. So we had never, see, for example, one interesting observation is everybody in the family has a blood group of A positive.
A plus.
A positive. So,
but did I have that blood group, or was my blood changed?
No, you had that.
Okay.
So you, Romit, Ma and me, all four are A positive.
Okay.
So I told myself that if there is some requirement of blood, at least everybody is the same blood.
In the family,
Yeah. But that was not required. We could do it with our blood only. And
I think you and Ma both gave 3 bottles each, right?
Yeah, 50-50. We didn't give, they took.
They had to take.
So they took, and then the evening before the surgery, now we know that you're going to go to the OT tomorrow morning. So this evening,
the surgery,
hugely, very highly tensed situation. And suddenly I get a call from Dr. Stanley John. He was the doctor who was to surgeon who was to do the surgery. Dr. Stanley John, let me say for a minute, he is a world famous cardiac surgeon, and he specializes in pediatric cardiac surgery. That's his forte. I remember our president of India was a gentleman called Shankar Dayal Sharma. He was president of India, and his grandson had come to Stanley John for surgery.
Achha.
So I remember we were standing outside his cabin, and that time this guy came. He was like acting little high and mighty, so he refused. So he said, "Sir, he's president's son, but that's why I'm refusing." He said, "Stanley John, but like you can afford to go to 20 other places.
Okay.
I only treat patients whose parents cannot afford to go to variety of doctors." This tells you the mindset with which Dr. John worked. And we used to call him in Bengali terms, Dr. Dadu. I mean, Doctor, basically he was God to us. So he came in, he called me in the evening, the night before the surgery. He said, "Mr. Dasgupta, come." So I went. He said, "This is the photograph you see. These two photographs. This is a normal heart. This is your son's heart."
Actually.
Showed me. This is the difference. And what I'm going to do is tomorrow, I will cut this, I will triple this, I will put this on there, I'll take this out and put this in. And as if he's doing some screwdriver technology. He's told me, explain the whole surgery to me.
Achha.
I was in awe of him, watching him. So what is it? We are doing very small things. I mean, see, you and as a father and me as a doctor are both taking a risk. He said that. And he said that how my hand is going to work
tomorrow,
I don't know. Whether it's going to be stable, whether it's going to be strong, I don't know. Somebody else will decide that. So you must have total faith and live with that faith. আমাদের তো আর কোনো উপায় ছিল না। We will have faith.
Limited options.
বলে ঠিক আছে হয়ে গেল, চলে আসলাম।
And then the next day the surgery happened.
So can I see my son for once? Sure, দেখলাম এখানে লাগানো ফাগানো চারদিকে, আমরা দেখে চলে আসলাম।
This is after the surgery?
No, this is before.
Before এই লাগানো ছিল সব?
No, তবে একবার ধরো সার্জারি কালকে হবে ডিসাইড হয়ে গেছে, all oxygen and other things. Prepping was going on. এত বড় একটা সিরিঞ্জ দিয়েছিল।
Syringe?
With something in it, some material in it, which was pushed in. So, দেখেই ভয় লাগছিল। But whatever, তুই তো জানিস না জানিস
মানে obviously recollection তো এমনি নেই, but as a parent what did you feel was I in awe, was I confused?
I think you didn't even know.
I didn't realize.
You didn't realize.
Okay.
Because আমরা তো গল্প বলছি তো কেন তখন, এটা হবে তারপরে এটা হবে তারপরে এটা হবে গল্প। আর আমি তখন একটা ট্রেন কিনেছিলাম তার জন্য, যেটা ট্রেনটা যাচ্ছে ঘুরতো।
I think that train is there in all Bengali family homes. It's a classic train. It goes around in circles.
আর ওরা চালিয়ে দিয়ে তোর খাটের পাশে দেখেন, এখান থেকে ভাইজ্যাগ, এখন এটা ভাইজ্যাগ, আমরা যাবো কলকাতা ফেরত, কোন কটা স্টেশন পরে আসবে দেখ ও তো তখন you already understood that something is going to happen. So you were tensed already, but you didn't say anything. So we went home. Now, day of the surgery, 6 o'clock in the morning. Surgery was slated to happen at 7 a.m. in the morning.
Morning surgery, okay.
6 o'clock in the morning, Dr. Stanley John goes to the church every day.
Okay.
So he will come to the church, pray, and then straight away go to OT. Because he always have a 7 o'clock surgery. So like every day he went that day also. And he doesn't talk that time. He's concentrating. So he's very focused. And he doesn't talk. So he went to the church, prayed, and then went off. We were standing next to him, but in anticipation that good morning. আমরা বলবো কিছু দেখলোই না আমাদের দিকে সোজা বেরিয়ে গেল ঠিক আছে so he went in and from that time onwards till the time you came out it was 5 hours there's a major thing they do which is called the heart lung machine the heart lung machine is the surgery is the main time when your heart opens you're clinically dead that time 2 hours 20 minutes. So that is the surgery which is happening.
They put you on a heart lung and basically operate on the heart. They stop the heart and they operate on the heart.
They stop the heart. Exactly. So heart lung machine, that was operative for 2 hours and 20 minutes.
Okay, on the heart lung.
On the heart lung. আমার এখন এই ডেটাগুলো মনে আছে এতদিন পরে এত and as it was absolutely entrenched. So went inside, then he did that surgery and very huge change which we saw in you was when your whole body a সাহেবের বাচ্চা হয়ে গেছে pink totally pink হয়ে gেছে and this
মানে the color before and the color after
huge
was
difference because you were dark getting into darkish
blue baby যেটাকে বলে nails were blue everything
so উনি দাঁড়ানো উনি চলে গেল and then after 4.5 hours সার্জারি হলো তো চলে গেল আমরা ওয়েট করলাম 4-5 দিন ওই যে সেই দিন যে বৃষ্টি হতে আরম্ভ করলো
after the surgery
the rains stopped only 5 days later when you came to the room
wow
non-stop rained
wow so I was in the ICU for 5 days
no
correct
ICU that's for the operation and a little more then there was a room next to the anti-room next to the
ICU
ICU and that only the operated patients are there
okay the observation room
observation room so you were kept there so it was raining I mean raining non-stop and somebody came and told me this is a good omen
acha
in Hindu system it's called very good
acha
if it rains it's God's blessings are coming
acha
so I said very good everybody's blessings are important to us so I think
5 din pore I came back
and this statement I have mentioned to I think 1,000 people what has to happen was the room we had the veranda and the room after room and there was a portico kind of a thing next and so I used to take you for a walk every day evening on the portico
before the surgery
okay and আমার হাতটা ধরে used to go and invariably in the first round যখন ফেরত আসছে you were gasping you couldn't take the breath and ঠিক আছে যাচ্ছি there was a canid chair used to make you sit down and slowly come back to the room so that day was nothing new so we just went there and আমার হাতটা ধর then you started walking
but is it after the surgery
this is the day after the surgery
acha literally after the surgery
so he said that কিছুক্ষণ পরে গেল একটা রাউন্ড হলো ফেরত আসলো আমাকে বলছে বাবা আমি হাঁপাচ্ছি না it was so nice sweet so he said আমি হাঁপাচ্ছি না আমি তো ভালো তো হাঁপাচ্ছিস তো ভালো and you have a bright smile in your face so obviously a kid of 4.5 years every day he had suffered that pain of gastric pain so that was a very startling revelation of
so I did multiple rounds basically
you did from that time onwards সেদিনও বৃষ্টি হয়েছে তারপরের দিনও বৃষ্টি হয়েছে বা 2-1 দিন ছিল বৃষ্টি বন্ধ হয়ে গেল তারপরে বন্ধ গেল বৃষ্টি বন্ধ হয়ে গেল
I just stopped
so this was your surgery I mean
and I remember and tarpore I was on a very restrictive diet water intake for 1 year I think
water intake no salt
I think I had X ml of water per day I could have for 1 year Ma was very very strict I remember
he used to
measure kore
your life and death so So you should take cotton. The mother.
Cotton, Delhi summers.
Cotton. Cotton মানে তুলো। সে তুলোটা নিয়ে জলে ভেজা ধুয়ে ঠোঁটে লাগিয়ে দিত। That is enough. That's all you can have water. No water.
I remember that very vividly because I remember as a child asking for water summertime, and it must have been very difficult for a parent, for mom also. And she was very, very strict. The doctor told me I cannot have more than so much of water, so much of salt, or no salt rather.
No salt.
And very restricted diet and stuff like that. So but again, looking back, like I said, the question that I was asking was the message for the parents who are going through the same situation. I mean, now that of course
message to the parents is very clear. Choose the right hospital and the doctor.
Have faith.
And have total faith. Surrender yourself to the process and the doctors completely.
And there's no other alternative, right?
We did that completely.
Yeah, and follow that.
খুব ঠাকুর ফাকুর করার দরকার নেই, just surrender. Internally surrender.
I think that's a very important message because I mean, as a parent you go through that with your child, it's a very, very difficult experience. So surrendering is perhaps the only kind of ecosystem or option.
Surrender, total surrender.
And I think and I'm going to move into after the CHD, once we came up and over time I started getting better. I think one more thing which is very, very important from a messaging perspective is that both Romit and I, as we were growing up, we ended up doing exactly the same thing. Even though I was a child who went through such a drastic surgery, recovery, I don't think ever growing up until much later, either of us, between both Romit and I, or me individually, ever felt that I can't do something. And this was something I was reflecting in an event very recently, whether it was going to Sindhya boarding school, studying there, whether it was going abroad for A-levels, going to US and working. I was aware that I can't do competitive sports, I can't compete per se, but from a lifestyle perspective, neither from the parents nor from the ecosystem, তাই জন্য মাথায় অত হিট করেনি. So led a very, very, which is what Egby told me, that you think you are a normal child having abnormal situations, but actually you are an abnormal child who lived a normal life. And I think the part of that credit goes to the parents to make a child feel like that.
Huge part. So I think because otherwise the child might grow up with complexities. Child completely trusts the parents.
Totally. And that's also a message. It's a big message. To the
child কাছে তো the only characters he would have seen is the parents. বাবা হচ্ছে the all-in-one male and মা হচ্ছে all-in-one female. এই দেখেছে, আর কেউ দেখেনি. So I think I remember this reminds me of digressing a little bit. You people were going in a bus, this is before the surgery.
Okay.
Going in St. George's School পড়তে তোমরা, school bus. And the school bus at a bus station. And just to give you an example what you wear before the surgery. So school bus stood in front of the school, everybody got down and left. And you were not there. কি হলো, অনেক কোথায় গেল? তার কিছুক্ষণ পরে দেখছি ঠিক এরকম দুদিকে তাকিয়ে এরকম ওয়াচিং, সামনে দেখছি পিছনে দেখছি, মানে মুখে ভয়, ফিয়ার, কমপ্লিট ফিয়ার। সে আস্তে আস্তে করে হাঁটছে, মানে এত মানে
ফুল অফ ফিয়ার,
সেইটা করে এরাডিকেটেড হয়ে গেল।
So that was. So now, once we went through that phase, we continued the journey as a family. Both Sunny and I went to boarding school. You, of course, had a very illustrious career, very dynamic career after Indian Oxygen, HCL, then starting your own company, PCL, and then eventually Globsyn. Let's move into that direction a little bit now, because the family part of it, this was a major challenge in the family that we had. There were other challenges, but this was one of the major ones. But in the career, as a parent who had this experience with their child and now being driven, keeping in mind that you came from a family background which was not a very driven from an entrepreneurial ecosystem. Like say, Dadu was not an entrepreneur, neither was your brother an entrepreneur, but you took a completely U-turn to to say, I want to build, create, nurture. So what gave you that drive? What was the
very
catalyst?
good question. Nobody has asked me this question. At this old age, I wish.
It's a good time to reflect.
Good time to reflect. And so I wish somebody would have asked me this earlier, when I was in my pink of health. But doesn't matter. It's okay.
But health is also a mindset. So you can talk now.
You're coming from an appropriate position. You're my son. But see, this is key. What made you go through this, and how was? See, I have asked this question to myself many times, because my father, my mother, none of them were entrepreneurial, and nobody else. Family thake business. আমরা বিজনেসও দেখিনি, আমরা কবিতা আর গল্প আর ওই টাইপ দেখেছি জিনিস। So it was very, অথচ আমরা কেউই কবি আর এসব হয়নি। So I think inspirational all that পরে আসলো, but ভেতরে জিন্সটা আসলো কোত্থেকে আমার ড্রাইভটা। So I think that what happened was that this ability to dare and ability to live the world of unknown and experiment with it and see what can go wrong. That courage came through that surgery. It's very weird, but it's true. It came. I was a very God-fearing person. At the core, if you go even today, I'm a very God-fearing person. Kintu ami agora hardened hoye gelam at that point.
That's the ultimate risk you took as a father.
আর তারপর তো রিস্ক নিয়েছি, one after the other রিস্ক নিয়ে গেছি আমি, whether in business বলো বা সব জায়গায় রিস্ক নিয়েছি, আর অ্যাবসলিউটলি ডিসপ্রপোর্শনেট রিস্ক। আমার কোনো পয়সা নেই, অথচ I built up such a large company. So I think that factor couldn't care less, and we'll see what happens. এই জিনিসটা কিন্তু আমার,
that was a changing point.
That's a changing point. That's a major changing point. And I think some of that has come into both my sons. You also have taken risk. Romit also has taken a lot of risk. His risk has taken. But he's so confident when he takes risk. He doesn't bother. এই যে ওর বাড়িটা বিক্রি হচ্ছিল না, ভিলাটা, but he was at peace. ভেতরে নিশ্চয়ই পিস ছিল না, but he was not showing anything. As controlled.
He was in control.
He was not panicking. So I think এই দুটোই তোমাদের দুজনের মধ্যে এটা এসছে, and that is the genes of cardiac surgery. ওটা এসছে তোমাদের মধ্যে।
So that the surgery was a pivotal point individually for you to start taking a risk on yourself in areas which were unknown to you. Right? And I think that is what gave birth to your experience in HCL and of course creation of PCL. And let's talk about the PCL part, because that's a very interesting journey. I know you mentioned it in your book, the 3 books that you've written also, about when you were leaving HCL and Shivnata told you that it's perhaps not the best idea. And later he went on to write the foreword of your book, of course. And then you were again getting into an unknown with your IIT friends to build something which created a massive ecosystem in India in the hardware days. So that risk, getting together with friends, building something where you were never an entrepreneur, before that you were always working as a professional. How did that come about?
I don't know.
The whole idea of PCL, how did it come? Who came up with that idea of PCL?
No, I wanted to do something more than what I was doing all the time. And even if people like Shabir and all that, I have tried to instill that in them. That why are you satisfied with what you are doing? To think of what I don't know, sir. You don't know, so what?
Push the boundary.
Push yourself.
I think that's also become the Globsyn DNA amongst people who have been here for many years, I think.
That's completely me. And that part has injected into me completely. And আমি যাকেই দেখি, আমার মনে হয় যে one day I was talking to this girl, your secretary, our secretary, Suesha. I was talking to her. Push her, ওর ঘাবড়ে গেছে আমাকে দেখে first time. She didn't expect this, that to come from chairman and all that. I said, just secretary থাকবে সারা জীবন. Push kar. And Rahul will give you opportunity, don't worry.
And I think she went beyond that. I mean,
So whether that influenced her, I don't know.
I'm
But
sure it did. Yeah, absolutely.
So I told her, I remember Swesha because she was a woman. Other boys have done tons
Many,
of
many
Globsyn
of
nights have done.
Tons of
Just
But so when you started this PCL, it was IIT Friends. You were leaving one of the larger HCL, was a large company that time. You were working with almost the founders of HCL, Shiv Nadar, Arjun Uncle. These are the creators of HCL. And then getting into an unknown space with friends. And then building that organization to be what it, I think PCL in its glorious days had a lot of offices around the world, right? How
44.
many 44 offices around the world. And what was the kind of business turnover and all that?
PCL those days.
Right before the public issue. Talking about, it was what, 200-300 crores?
300 crores.
300. And you're talking 300 crores in what, 1992?
80s.
Late 80s, early 90s, which is massive.
Massive.
And then Dell came into when you went. And that's a very interesting story, the Dell part of it.
But you see, this is a interesting thing for you, which is all the major breakthroughs in all the companies I've worked, God has made me do those. PCLA Dell is the biggest deal.
Correct.
I was single-handedly handled Dell. So এখানে Globsyn তাই. So I think he has made me face এই যে চ্যালেঞ্জটা যে করো কিছু হবে না. So I think most of the Infinity building solid. So I think I have now there is no fear in me. I mean,
but Infinity, and I want to talk about both the Dell and because I think this is for entrepreneurs who are building and creating. I think this is a very fascinating part, and they are very divergent sort of examples. So let's say first let's talk about Infinity. Like Infinity, this is in 1994, 95, around that time when you came and with Bebel, and I think that time Jyoti Basu was the CM. They had an idea, from what I understood, of building a high-tech city or a park. And then, how did the whole Infinity as a brand and discussion come about?
I was looking for, I won't say I was looking for a job, but I was looking for a position of value for myself. And I was not getting it. So I think I went to Shiv Nadar.
This is after PCL.
After PCL.
I remember you took a break and you were doing very high-end consulting. You remember Ganapati
Exports.
It was like sports cars.
Yeah.
And they were paying you huge.
That's how I bought the first BMW from the fees.
It was 5 Series, I remember blue in color.
Blue. So
that was a big deal in this. We are talking 1993, 94, right? And it was a big deal. Those days, when the number of BMWs in the road were very limited, and I think you bought a blue color, dark blue.
But you know, it didn't hit me because I bought it from the fees.
But also the other point is, I think from what I remember, you were like charging something like 50,000 or something per day.
1 lakh. 1 lakh to some bigger companies, smaller to
50,000 or 1 lakh per day in 1993. That's a huge amount of money for consulting. So, and the fact was people were paying you for it, and which is great. So, and of course you were able to afford a BMW. But I think that brand credibility you also built because of what you did with PCL, with the whole Dell order.
But you know, this is an interesting thing for the youngsters who would listen to this, that you can't build a brand in isolation. It has to be supported by performance. Otherwise, they should not last. 6 months, 8 months, 9 months will go. So if you people will believe you first time, but then they will look at your performance, immediate past performance. So, but I never stopped, you know. So once I did that, I went on supporting, went on doing better and better, creating, one after the other. And that's how it came in that area.
And then when you moved to Calcutta. Obviously, Sector 5 that time was nothing, except for 1 or 2 buildings, I remember. And then you got these few parcels of land where you wanted to build a high-tech city or high-tech building, which today, of course, there are multiple buildings standing here. I remember you mentioning Nandan Bhattacharya, right? Bebel, you, I think the CM's office was involved. They all wanted to build something in Bengal, and I think you eventually came back from Delhi to create that. So তোমাকে কে ডেকেছিল মানে what was the motivation of coming? Did somebody ask you to?
See, I was that time called in all the এখন হয় না এটা, তখন এটা খুব হতো 90s এ, that used to seminar হতো new inventions এর উপরে, innovation উপরে. So Dell deal was a big subject. Dell deal মানে আমি. So people had called me, many organizations, CII or for me to talk about how did we get the Dell deal.
Yeah.
So I had talked in Calcutta once, such talk, and which was again on Dell deal. So that is how people came to know.
And Dell was a $50 million deal, right?
50 million, 50.
$50 million deal to manufacture motherboards in India. And we are talking about early 90s. Right?
1992.
And you had gone to the Prime Minister's house or office or something like that, from what I remember. Narsimha Rao chilo na? And economic finance ke chilo? Tomorrow finance minister was Manmohan Singh.
Manmohan Singh, that's right.
I think finance minister was Manmohan Singh. They had to change certain norms or something like that, right?
11 areas in the norm. Export has to change. Because you can't import finished good. You have to include work. There was so much of work I did that time. Alone, that is beautiful. I don't know how did God give me that energy to do, I don't know. And it was a subject which I did not know much. It was pure intuition. I just worked. And dedication that I must do it. I must not get stuck. There was no parallel. Nobody has done it before.
There was no benchmark.
There was no benchmark.
So I think you went on to build and create the Dell order, which became very popular, because of which you were going out and talking and consulting. And one such event was maybe Kolkata, which noticed you as a Bengali living in Delhi. And I think that time the government and Webel both had a plan to build something. And you came about. But how did the name Infinity come about?
Oh, it's given by me.
But so obviously it was a brand that you created.
No, I was.
But how did you think of that?
Because I was thinking something which has not been done. And something which is not finite. And I wanted a name which will carry on for years. It will go. Timeless. So Infinity was a very logical. Now it appears it would have been very logical for me to call it Infinity. And that's how it came about. And I didn't know anything about that except for the fact that I knew this had to be the best building in Calcutta. Iconic. And this will be, how are you going to price it? At a press pricing real estate, pricing and the highest building price plus 5 rupees per square feet. Whatever the highest price in Calcutta, at 5 rupees. That's my price. A very simple job. So Infinity was another area where I was called many places to talk and.
And I think that was architected and designed by JP, right?
JP Agarwal.
JP designed it.
And JP Agarwal, that was the first
major project
for JP. He was a young architect those days. And JP, from that day onwards, he had so much of respect for me. Because, he kept on telling everywhere, this is not my project, this is BDG's project. And I just followed his instruction. Everything is his. And he meant it. When he did that, he meant it. So I think
1995 is when Infinity got launched. I think Jyoti Basu was there. It was a click of a mouse. The entire building lit up.
Now, these are important things for the young entrepreneur sitting there. Is that when you do something and it's something new, anyway you're reducing the number of newness in the project. Because your project itself is very new. So you have to search for newness. And Infinity found out everything new. Everything about Infinity was new. Give you some examples. So, like for example, how to show Infinity.
A launch.
So I said, whatever materials we put inside Infinity will be on display. The knobs, the air conditioning, everything. Brand. Aluco bond. That was the first time Aluco bond was used. All that will be on display and লিখে দেবো নিচে এখানে use হয়েছে এখানে use হয়েছে. People see that if there is any other building with that kind of combination, it clearly stood out that it's a very iconic.
You don't have a competition.
I don't have a competition there. So like that we did so many things. Really.
I remember much later Narayan Murthy coming to you to see how you made the Infinity Outer, because he was trying to build the Mysore campus and he was very fascinated with the Aluco bond and the structure. And I think much later he came to have a conversation with you or a chat with you to understand how and what kind of materials.
A lot of people came. Lot of people came to me. But quite frankly, I did not have the answers for everything. I did again.
So you did it out of intuition and gut feel.
Same logic. What is the best material available?
So it was not the material, it was what is the best available.
In that line. And just more than that.
Which also beautifully, in some context, when we spoke about your parents and your mother and the whole Charmy's cream, it's a great connector. So you have imbibed that very strongly from your mother. Like be the
not
best and be the best, use the best. Whatever you must do, you must sort of do it beyond what others can do it, I think. And that's a very, very strong messaging that I hear from you.
That's my life.
That's your life, essentially. Even your Dell deal, your Infinity deal, all that sort of encompasses. Now, while you were doing this, you created Globsyn. So now I'm moving on to the Globsyn part of it, right? So, which stands for Global Synergy. A lot of people don't understand that, because I think that time you were only thinking with Infinity and others, how do you bring the world class to Bengal or world class to India? So Globsyn came about, and you had where we are sitting today, there was a small parcel of land. I think it was a Gold Star building or something like that. There's a lot of greenery around. So let's talk about how did you go about creating Globsyn, and we'll come to the businesses later. What was the thought? Because Infinity was already happening, and I think parallelly you started Globsyn. So what was the vision?
See, one thing to remember, and also for the budding entrepreneurs to remember, I have never conceived a project completely. But I have just conceived the contours of the project. I did not know what will be Infinity. I knew how to start and what kind of elements can be there. And let me build now, let me see what happens.
And you went along and created.
Most of my projects are like that. So I think that's what Infinity was about. Everything was like
Globsyn came about that.
Everything was like that. So that is how it came about. And
but I think Globsyn, if you look at it from that perspective, as a training organization first during YSM days, it was a very different campus. If you remember, even for the longest time, IBM was across us. You introduced YSM. I'm talking about pre-Y2K now. But I think one thing that a lot of YSMs, if you meet today, they will remember is the campus, because there was a fish pond, there was a lot of greenery. There were IBM machines, niche, if you remember. Opere, there used to be a cafeteria. I think the creativity was not just on the product per se, the creativity was the environment you created, which is also reflected in GBS today in different contexts, like the ecosystem that you created for the product, right? So and Infinity is also a reflection of that, not just the best of material, but a building of that stature in 95 is very different, not seen. People have, what I have heard from you, that after that smart cities came into India and people started much later. But so to create the best of actor, but to create something iconic and multiple times over, which is a very horizontal approach for entrepreneurship. What was driving you? Was there a passion? Was there an opportunity that you saw as an entrepreneur? What was it?
First of all, it was not business. I don't think you can create iconic things
if you look at it business-wise.
This is the first learning. I was looking at it purely creation.
You had a desire that you wanted to create.
Something where my name will be there for years to come.
And you impact the society.
I impact the society. Influence the society. So I think that was the major difference between
All of these.
to all this. And it happened. Everything happened that way.
And of course, then Globsyn got into, I remember I&I, Institution and Infrastructure Creation. That was the vision. So you used to say, okay, this is what I've created in Infinity, but who's going to sit in Infinity? So you need to create institutions to be a part of this. Then you started with, training, becoming the bridge between the industry, and then you got into education, which is the academia. So it's the academia and the bridge and the infrastructure.
Everything was drawn. So what happened was that Infinity part, that academia part, what you were saying, was something which is a picture drawn. I used to visualize it in a piece of paper, and it was very clearly reflected. Whether I'll at all make it, I didn't know, but you knew this is how it should be. So Infinity was something like that. Training came about, then high-end training. IBM training, that kind of training. IBM training bole kichu chilo na. There's nothing called IBM training. I created that slot. And IBM training one mainframe.
You have to buy the machines.
Mainframe training one I can charge any money. Because there were hardly any mainframes in Kolkata. And anybody who does mainframe training will pay anything for it. So you can think of billing to Shigalo. And that's how, but I never thought of turnover so much. I thought of doing something different, unique and new.
Which is perhaps why you're very horizontal in the businesses you create.
Yeah, I'm very horizontal.
And as an entrepreneur, there are people who are very vertical in one business, doing that vertically well. But I think in your experience, whether it was PCL, whether it was the Dell deal, whether it was Infinity, Techno Campus, Globsyn Business School, very horizontal structure of creativity across, with the consistent thing of wanting to stretch the boundary of creativity, do the best in ecosystem. Now, Globsyn Business School, let's talk about that, because that's something that I think 2002, and I remember this because I was working in Deloitte at that time. Romez had already joined the family business. He was in the US, and Y2K had happened. We went through that whole bubble burst of internet that time. And 2002, it was in Princeton, in the New Jersey house, where one of the discussion, and you said, okay, the education, which was always a plan, you preponed it, and I think you came and launched the business school in 2002. What was that experience like? Because that education as an ecosystem is permanent, is very legacy driven as opposed to any other business. Because what happens is when you have a school where students are graduating, like you're a graduate from IIT or Harvard, those are legacy products because they have to continue in the family. There's multi-generations who join. What was your vision when you created a business school?
Main vision was the best. It has to be one of the best in its line of business. When I created a business school, my first point for first 5 minutes was, how can it be better than I am? And I don't have money. And so people will stop after this, but I started after that. It was so much ingrained in me that I used to sit and write. I used to always write. A lot of habit to write. And I should sit and write. I'll write only points where I can cross I am Calcutta. Maybe 2 points, maybe 3 points, but whatever I write should be beyond I am Calcutta.
Okay.
I am Calcutta because it was a sample. I mean, not that it's the best institute, but whatever.
A benchmark.
Benchmark, yeah. So that's how the picture came about. Then it didn't work. I mean, it didn't work in the
way you wanted it to work.
Then I said, okay, let's take a detour. Let's make life, which is much more closer to me than technology. And I want to live well. I was like, আমার ফ্যাশনে চলে গেলাম So I would like to একটা ছেলে 19-20 বছরের ছেলে ওর মাথা দিয়ে কি ঘোরে এখন He'll buy a fancy car, he'll have a laptop, he'll have this, he'll have সেই সিস্টেমটাকে তৈরি করার চেষ্টা করলাম What will you be seeking? সেইটা থেকে শুরু হলো তারপরে তুমি দেখবে আমাদের দৈনন্দিন রেগুলার লাইফের সঙ্গে ওই বিজনেস স্কুল লাইফটাকে মিশিয়ে দেবে I mixed it. See, okay, if this guy is studying business school, he's an MBA, what will his house be like? What will his dad be like? What will his mother be like? What will his sister be like? I created them. আমি খুব ইমেজেডি ছিলাম, ইমেজ দিয়ে ক্রিয়েট করতাম এই ছেলে এই বোন কী করছে,
you were visualizing the experience.
এটা কী করবে, পড়ার ব্র্যান্ডেড স্কুল, ব্র্যান্ড জিনিসটা আসলেই ওই থেকে। You'll always be fancy, people who are just on the borderline like to have a brand. So how does
and আমার মনে আছে এই সময়, and you were probably in your early 50s around this time, you parallelly, while you were dreaming about this, and we were in the US, or Sunny had joined, you went to Harvard in the OPM program, because you were trying to also draw that, which eventually worked out, the vision for the brand. There was a phase where you have to re-architect the vision of what we have today, which is taking people to the next level. And somewhere down the line, when you're talking about brand creativity, you're trying to see how that youngster in his life goes to the next level.
See,
how did that come about?
There was a big thing happening to me, because our professor of strategy, the lady's name I forgot. I'm very sorry. I should have remembered. She said that
Cynthia Montgomery,
yeah. Cynthia.
I just remembered her name because I've heard it from you only, but
yeah, Cynthia. She said, what is it that you want to, what is the one thing in your company which you want to build? So everybody kept quiet. Well, don't have to tell me anything now. You come back tomorrow morning to me here, write it in a piece of paper and fold the paper and give it to me. It should be a name of what you want to do, one thing. So we all went back. I was pretty good with names, but I couldn't get anything. She has given me a challenge. She's already drawn the parameters. So that is when I came back with the line, and which just said, wow, this line goes well. Yes, it goes well. It hits you. So that was the line. Taking people to the next level. And that, he said, if you are taking people to the next level, you have to necessarily go yourself to the next level. Otherwise, you can't take people to the next level. So by definition, you are going to the next level.
You're always evolving.
Always evolving. So if you are doing that as a business, as a work, as an ethic, then that will stay. It will never go. So taking people to the next level.
That became the mantra. And I think that's how our vision statement came alive as well. ওটা ছিল, আর তোমার পার্সোনালটা যেটা ছিল, ordinary people can do extraordinary.
Ordinary people can do extraordinary thing is, there was this, I've written about that in our Boitate. There was an artist who used to come to Ma for songs. Musician chilo. Bengalis are versatile. They are artists as a music also. So this guy had come. He used to come to listen to Ma singing. So that time I had this collage. Ordinary people can do extraordinary things. He used to come in a cycle. He stood in front of the EM bypass and kept on standing there for 45 minutes. And he was looking bewildered. What happened? Oh, what a beautiful line, sir. That means I can also do. And of course you can. It's meant for you.
And he connected with it.
And it's meant for you only. I'm an ordinary person. If I can create infinity, you can do.
Excellent. So it touched a lot of people.
It touched and it went around. It touched absolutely seamless. It touched.
And I think coming from a middle class family, the kind of journey you've had is very is huge. Now we'll taper the interview down and go to last one or two questions. What's your message as you look at the businesses today? Of course, Romit and I have taken over the operational part of the businesses for the last few years, and I'm running the school, as you know, and then Romit is running the tech business and stuff like that. But what's from an entrepreneur perspective or a visionary perspective for the school and the tech company, or for whatever, what's the messaging you have? At the business level, Second, what's the messaging you have at our level, which is the next
No,
generation?
but I've been thinking about this the last few days. I don't know why it has come here, how it has come here. But it's very funny. Normally, if you're a well-to-do person in business and work, and you have two sons, one son does well, the other son doesn't do well. But both has money. Dad's money, that is. And they waste dad's money. And there's no will to do any. And they've seen enough. But in fact, in our family case, both my sons do want to do very well. Romit's doing this villa, and this thing is a very good example of wanting to do well, wanting to have a benchmark in dad's vision of infinity. That was his benchmark, right or wrong? That was the way he looked at it. So I think that part, and you are excelling in creative areas. So I think both the sons wanting to excel. Again, that's excel they have picked up from my creativity, not the other things. তাহলে কি হতো একজন বকাটে হয়ে যেত একজন ইয়ে হতো because money is available in the family. And that is God's grace, and for that I give the credit to my wife. Completely.
You kept us grounded.
Yeah, totally. Now, ground is an understatement. She has kept all of you, and even the people who come home. Everybody is grounded. It's a very ordinary house, an ordinary family, ordinary way people live, and anybody who comes there gets influenced by that ordinariness. But she never realized that that is what people want. And that is what hundreds of people have wanted. So I think that's a major difference between our family.
So that's an observation. But the question was the message. So, for example, what you've said is like, okay, both my sons have the zeal of performing and doing well in their respective areas, whether it be creativity on my side or let's say.
See, what happens, Rahul, is that which son will pick up, you don't know. We try to do too many things, trying to fix the screws. More often than not, that doesn't work. I also tried that in my own way, but it didn't work even in my case. So you let loose. People will take direction, whatever reason. But if they have taken the direction themselves, I think they will figure out what to do.
So the messaging is very similar to what you have experienced and done in your life, which is that you found your own path through experiences in life which inspired you. Whether it was my surgery situation, whether it was Infinity, whether it was Dell, you kept going and going and going. You never knew that you would be this person, that you have built so many things, coming from a background that you did. And I think that's the larger message, I think, what I hear from you from a next generation perspective as well. That to be true to yourself and keep building and creating, keep building, working on your strength, know who you are, and doing that. And I think both Romit and I are doing that anyway today. I think we lived like that. But just to do that more. But for the next generation of youngsters who are coming, and this is sort of my last question, ecosystem, who are coming into Globsyn Business School today. It's a brand for 23 years. A lot of families have trusted to send their kids, a middle class family. Many of them, the kids earn more than their parents sometimes. What's the message you have for them, which is beyond the family, as they go into the real world? What's the message you have as an entrepreneur who created the brand?
I would say that for them, the parents, it is how the parents of Rahul and Romit lived should be the way messaging. I mean, look at the down to earth, no nonsense kind of a family we are, and that doesn't mean that we have not kept the tempo high. We are not disliking fashion.
We've enjoyed every element in a balance.
Very, very balanced. And my wife has done more than what I have, but very balanced way. And that, if the parents do that, then they are actually helping their sons to
do that. Which means fundamentally what you're saying is more to do with values. Like, keep the values intact. and then
And
enjoy.
don't talk
life
too much
based on-
about it. Make that as a part of your life.
Whatever, and live it.
Live it. You just don't talk. I mean, that is not required. I mean, you just day to day in the dining table, in the bedroom, the sons should see it.
Correct.
Once they
And
see
you're living
it,
it. Huh?
that is a living it. That is all they know what to do. And if that simplicity is there in what they do, then I think these guys already have the. See, try and understand. They have already the backbone.
Correct.
All those things are available.
Correct.
What they don't have is the experience and the value systems. So that they will pick up from there and add that to their what they have, and they will excel.
Excellent. So I think we will bring this to an end. Of course, something like this that we have done today over an hour. I think we have spent over an hour. The good news of this is going to be there forever because it's recorded, and that's a good news for both you and as well as me and for the family at large. I don't think one of the reasons that motivated me to build a room like this, as you know, was to have such conversations between father and son. Maybe it could be a brother and brother, it could be a mother and son, because I think these are important conversations to be had. Because particularly when one transitions and is not there in the next generation, it can happen either way. These are memories which are very, very important to hold on to and conversations that you can reflect back on. Do you have anything concluding that you want to say in general as your last parting message?
No, but I think that life must be enjoyed, and do not go away from who you are. I mean, don't try to become something which you are not. More you do that, more you will fail. It
Right.
will not work.
Right.
Suppose you are not a very good student, don't try to become a good student.
Yeah.
Be natural. Maybe you become a good painter. Maybe you become, and those things are not going to happen overnight.
Correct.
Allow yourself to go, and just the no-goes have to be understood. This is what I will not do in life. This is not my upbringing. What I'll do, I don't know. But what I will not do,
I know.
I know.
Yeah.
If this you will straight and put it in front of you and then lead your life, but your conscience will come up. Your conscience will say, don't do this.
Correct.
So it's
Right.
automatically will happen.
Great. I think I take that as a message for both me and Rumit, plus also for larger young generations here to come. So with that, let's bring this conversation to an end. A wonderful April afternoon. I think it's 22nd today? 23rd? 23rd of April 2024. Wonderful April afternoon at 4 o'clock. We will bring this to an end. Thank you very much, and it was a fantastic conversation. Hopefully we'll have more. Hopefully you get to do something like this with Sunny also. It will be fun, and many more to come. Thank you very much.